Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Thank you for joining me for this SMIE Consulting Midweek Roundup for today, Wednesday, November 11th, 2020. I'm your host, Marty Bennett, and today on the Roundup, we're going to be covering three important questions we've been hearing from international educators over the past week, based on news stories that we've heard and seen and recorded in our weekly newsletter that comes out Mondays, all the SMIE news fit to share. That's social media and international ed news. We feature about 5 to 6 social media stories and about 20 to 30 international ed stories, and often where they combine. And that gives our quick takes on what those news stories mean for our field. But we go more in depth into three of those themes here on the Roundup on Wednesdays each week. If you'd like the newsletter, I'll drop a link to the current week's edition on the comment section on the Facebook page. That's a link to the current week's edition, but if you want to subscribe directly, you go to smieconsulting.org/subscribe, and you can fill out the quick form online to get your name added to the subscription list for that newsletter. But for those that are joining us live on Facebook, thank you for being a part of our regular discussions and chats each week. It's always great to hear from you and get your contributions to the topics of the day. For those that are listening on the podcast, we appreciate you downloading us each week and making us a regular part of your listening habits, and hopefully provide some food for thought for you along the way. For those that are catching us on replay on either the Facebook page or our YouTube channel, always a pleasure to have you as part of the conversation as well. So thanks for being here, and let's get right into the first question. So what did international students feel in the United States pre-election? About U.S. study, I should say. And this is related to some studies that were done, surveys that were done pre-elections that were focused on, in general terms, international students' views on studying abroad for their higher education. First up, we have an ISEF Monitor article that covers two recent surveys, one from QS that had nearly 3,000 prospective student responses. That was in September, and one from educations.com that had a comparable number of student responses that was conducted in October. So some really recent data that's pre-election that will give us a feel of what students were concerned about. And the QS report, according to this ISEF report, ISEF article, says that the vast majority still want to start the programs in 2021. Nearly 9 in 10, 85% or so of the QS respondents said they believed they would begin their studies in the next calendar year. This was more distributed within the educations.com sample, with roughly 2/3 expecting to start in 2021, another 11% in 2022. That the educations.com students, 15%, said that they didn't know when they would begin their studies. So there's a higher degree of uncertainty for those group compared to March and April, when they had a similar survey, and that back then only 10% said that they didn't know when they would begin their studies. And frankly, that was early days of the pandemic, and probably most folks didn't have a realization of what the true impact was going to be, and is still being felt, and will continue to be felt in 2021. So these are two interesting studies that do kind of shed some light on what prospective students were feeling before the election on some of the key issues that they're facing in terms of access to countries, on desirability of countries. These were students that are looking in not just the United States, but any destination outside their home country. So that it was clear that they're highly committed to studying in person, and on campus, and that was the overarching desire for their study abroad experiences, or doing a degree from another country. And it's something that is an important consideration for why students might switch destinations if an on-campus option isn't available in certain countries. They may switch to countries that are able to offer that in 2021. So a lot of moving parts, obviously, with this story here. There's a specific one from West that was done in August, and is now being reported on, that takes a look at how international students and immigrant immigrant students in the United States that were looking for a higher education on how they viewed options of studying in the U.S. The international student groups are the ones that are obviously outside the U.S. that will need visas to enter, and they have a different set of issues than, say, internationally educated immigrant students or those looking to pursue an education in the U.S. and have attained other credentials abroad. That includes permanent residents, refugees, asylees, that type of thing, those that hold immigrant visas. So the question of what we all want to know is, do students still want to enroll in U.S. higher education institutions? And that in August, this data again from Wes, over half of prospective international students and around 2/3 of prospective immigrant students indicated that COVID had not affected their intent to enroll in at U.S. institutions. So over half, so potentially 45+% of surveyed students were less likely, were not totally convinced that didn't have their plans changed, that did have their plans changed by COVID. So there were for international students because of what's happened with COVID in the U.S., 29% were less interested in August for study in the U.S. as opposed to only 22% less interested in June. So there's that change, that the students have become more disinterested in studying in the United States because of the pandemic response here. So there's certainly issues there, and one of the big ones for international students who are looking to come is, will they be able to travel, and will they be healthy once they're here, once in the United States and on campus? And this points to a couple of things here. First up, the visa issue. That's still a major roadblock for international students to come, because there are many consulates and embassies around the world that are still closed or are only doing emergency appointments, which technically international student visas or F1 student visas could qualify for. But there are real challenges in being able to even get a visa appointment at this point for students that are looking to come in the spring. So that's a major concern. We're seeing a huge upticks in the percentage of students that are prospective students that are looking to come that are concerned, extremely concerned, went up from 37% to 44% from June to August about their health and their family while traveling to the United States. So that's based on everything they see in the media about how college campuses are seeing these huge spikes in cases on campus, and there are just huge problems, certainly PR problems, with how some colleges have handled their COVID response on campus, and that matters. And what is important as part of messaging, and this is again why we focus here at the Roundup so much, and SMIE Consulting so much, on solutions. What do you need to be doing in face of this evidence? Evidence that students are extremely concerned. 44% are extremely concerned about their personal health and safety while they're on campus because of what's happening and they're seeing in the news about COVID response and all that. You need to have, if your college has a well thought out plan, it has regular testing and contact tracing in place, that methodology is in place, that there are quarantines for procedures in place that are strictly followed, masking and social distancing is strictly adhered to. If your campus has that in place and you've seen very low incidence of COVID cases on campus, that is what you need to be shouting from the rooftops right now. That has to be front and center in your messaging to prospective students. If it isn't, it should be, because you have to be able to answer prospective students' concerns, and whether you know them or not, these are the kind of surveys you need to be watching out for and having an ear to as you put together messaging, as you alter messaging, because your communication plan is not set in stone. If it is, it should be thrown out with the bathwater. You need to have a communication plan that is flexible, that you can adapt quickly to, that you can insert messaging that fits current needs and current concerns that your prospective student audiences have. That you can't be deer in the headlights when in your international student office when certain visa changes come down or there's fears about future visa changes coming down. If your current students are concerned about that, they want to hear from you. You can't put your head in the sand and just wait for it to pass and assume that it's all going to be okay. your students are your most important raison d'etre, that they exist. You exist to provide them the services they need. Your job exists to provide them the services they need to fulfill their educational dreams on your college campus. If you're not able to do that because you're not up to speed on what's going on or know what to say, find the answers. Find colleagues on other campuses that are dealing with these similar issues. But this one in particular, when we're talking about prospective student audiences, and if they have these kinds of legitimate concerns, 44% being extremely concerned about their health while traveling in the U.S. and coming to the United States, that's something you need to be aware of, about their ability to get visas. What are the options if they can't get visas? Are you going to have plans in place, as some colleges did over the summer, for large cohorts of Chinese students that were coming that weren't able to start? Do you have an online program that they can fit into? Do you have a partner overseas that they can study at? These are all options that the flexible, adaptable campuses, the truly student-focused campuses out there made over the summer to allow a fall that wasn't a complete explosion or destruction of your international student enrollment plans. So having your finger on the pulse, having a sense of what's going on out in the marketplace is absolutely vital to your understanding of your students, of the world around you that impacts their behavior. So for all intents and purposes, these kinds of surveys, though they're not definitive in terms of they represent all potential students, they certainly give you a sense of the issues that are out there. And having your awareness of what those might be is an important piece of the puzzle that you certainly want to have as part of your response mechanisms and change mechanisms that you have in place to adapt and overcome the challenges that you will encounter. It's just a natural state of being at this point. So these are some interesting survey results that we'll certainly provide the links in the comments section on the Facebook page, but you can also get these from our weekly newsletter. All these links to these news articles are there. Now, next up, will proposed H-1B changes next month be implemented? And this is another one of those topics that hasn't gotten quite as much press as certainly the visa changes that were proposed in early July that were quickly reversed 8 days later, related to fall enrollment for current international students being able to study online or hybrid education in the fall. And we still don't know whether that's going to be extended to the spring. We assume it will, but there's a lot of anxious ISSS offices that are waiting for that guidance from DHS on what advice should be given to new students that might be coming in the spring, but also continuing students, what the options might be for them. Certainly, the pandemic is still raging, and certainly you probably will have a DHS once the administration, new administration coming in has new staff at the senior positions with very clear directives in place that would be more international student friendly. You look at issues like we're talking about now, this H-1B ban. It's not the ban that we're talking about here is it would go into effect December 7th. It's not a ban. It's basically, this Pi News article says ban, but it's really introducing stricter eligibility requirements for H-1B that there are U.S. educational associations and universities that are filing suit against this, and that's great to see that. Well, I hope it has a similar impact to past legal challenges that have been pushed back because of legal challenges from higher ed and the business community, frankly. But the Pi News article makes the claim that the rules will harm U.S. colleges and universities' educational missions, their research, faculty and student bodies, as well as their healthcare systems and their reputations. That's what these associations have had, even though they are not impacted directly by the H-1B, because many colleges and universities are exempt from the caps on H-1B regulations that apply for skilled workers in the U.S. They have can effectively hire international candidates for positions without restriction, as long as they meet the employee requirements employer requirements for doing the appropriate search that shows that there are no qualified domestic candidates for those positions, and that the pay scales are at levels commensurate, that they aren't paying reduced wages to an international applicants. They would have equity pay with as what their domestic counterparts would have. So the ACE has come across American Council on Education that is supporting legal challenges to these new rules. That because colleges do use the H-1B to fill positions on campus, that the current administration, according to this ACE brief, has in Department of Labor and Department of Homeland Security, did not give those affected an opportunity to share the impact the rules would have, but that is required as by the Federal Administrative Procedures Act. So their concern is for colleges and universities and the ACE and other educational associations, their point is that it's a procedural problem in the way this has been approached, much like other new proposals that have been rolled out by DHS and Department of Labor that have not gotten the appropriate vetting, appropriate comment periods and such, which is what has happened with the DS proposed ban that we've talked about in the past. That there has been a comment period, and now they're in their review period. So we're hoping we can run out the clock on that one before January 20th, and that will not go through. So the impact of this, Amanda Stevens at SUNY New Paltz said that limiting the use of H-1Bs will very likely deter international students from studying in the United States, adding to the number of pre-existing deterrents such as the COVID pandemic and the threats to OPT opportunities. So this is something that we're certainly going to keep our eyes on with the H-1B. There's also the tech companies, tech startups have also rallied against these proposed changes, because one of the restrictions is that there be higher minimum salaries that are required for H-1Bs. That it would be doing away with the visa lottery for these for the pool of H-1Bs that is awarded each year. That the tech companies typically are the ones fighting over. That the tech startups can't afford those new salaries because they're startups. They're just getting off the ground, and they can't afford to hire H-1Bs at much higher rates that would be required with these new regulations. So it's a Wall Street Journal article that has that tech startups opposition to H-1B. So certainly one to keep your eye on with regard to H-1B changes. Now, the last question we cover here is an ongoing one, frankly, but the topic of undergraduate international student recruitment is kind of front and center for most colleges and universities around the country that have been relying on international student recruitment to help fuel their undergraduate population growth on college campus, or certainly the non-in-state tuition-paying cohort that they have on campus for public universities. So the question of how do you turn around international student recruitment when you've clearly seen significant drops, which the lion's share of colleges and universities have seen this fall. There are, certainly in terms of on-campus enrolled on-campus international students, those numbers are going south, have gone south this fall for most campuses. Undergraduate international enrollment, according to the National Student Clearinghouse data we've shared, the West Report data shared that as well. This report is from EAB, one of the major consulting bodies out there for higher education. Their article here, undergraduate international enrollment is down 14%. Here's how you can respond. So this is for their clients and their potential audiences, domestic audiences, what the impact of this decline is, and what you can be doing to offset that decline, or redress that decline in future semesters in the spring, in the fall next year. So they came up with about 6 suggestions, some of which we've talked about many times here on the Roundup. But in terms of what you can be doing to help tailor your international recruitment approach specifically to your students. You need to be, their first suggestion, host events that are tailored to international students. These are international open houses. These are international student live chats. There's some great types of sessions like this, a lot of virtual sessions. 6 colleges, Amherst, Bowdoin, Carleton, Pomona, Swarthmore, and Williams, offering virtual information sessions specifically for international students. You see these are offered at times around the world, not just this group of 6, but there's been all sorts of small groups that have had these kind of virtual events, which I think is great, because you don't want to be just one institution trying to offer this to any high school or student group, that prospective student audiences that might want to come, that you're able to team up with other colleagues of either like-minded or very different kinds of schools to give students choices when they come to live information sessions like that. That's exactly what you should be doing. Many are still doing virtual visits to individual high schools or groups of high schools. We've talked about what we did with the UWC schools, how we've had 2 virtual visit days, gave students at all 19 UWC schools in 18 countries an opportunity to interact with 48 U.S. colleges that have Davis Scholarship programs. Those things, virtual days, are must happen this year, and they'll likely be carryovers for the spring and the fall next year, I think, as it impacts recruitment moving forward. That these virtual events need to be specifically tailored to your international audiences. So don't invite international students to a regular domestic open house if you're doing something like that virtually, because the topics covered, the questions asked and answered are going to be very different. So that's a great suggestion there. Second, create interactive virtual content to keep international students connected to your institution. So the videos, the virtual tours are important. You see that when you do virtual tours, maybe have them done through the eyes of an international student, or have international students give their perspective on these kind of things, on when they first visited campus and found their way through campus. They also talk about not losing track of pipeline management fundamentals. And for some, on the international side, if you're not part of a larger admissions office and you have your own functions, this might not be part of your regular operating procedures, but having admissions pipeline, admissions funnel, these are the ways we talk about these things, and the stages and messaging at different stages is important that you have. Parent engagement is another element of this pipeline management. These are the strategies you use to meet your audiences at the different points in the process and answer the questions and be the resource that they need to go through. So those are the 3. Actually, there are only 3 key methods that they recommend. So certainly they're proposing their services as fixes for a lot of the challenges out there, but really. What is important as part of this is the emphasis on digital and how important that is in this time, on how if you don't have a good digital game, you're already miles behind the competition when it comes to this year and international student recruitment, based on what the pandemic has done to travel, that's done to other physical opportunities to connect with students and also their influencers. So EAB certainly has some great suggestions there, and ones that I certainly would think should be essential parts of any successful international student recruitment plan. So as we do at SMIE Consulting, this is part of our consulting business, is helping institutions identify appropriate strategies for target audiences that they have, working on country level admissions planning, on multi-level, multi-platform approaches to what you need to be doing in social, on your website, on your digital communication plan, on virtual events that you do, how all of those can and should be a regular part of your recruitment strategies. And so we talk about that. And one thing I did want to give everybody an opportunity to join in on. And International Education Week is coming up next week, as we know. And that's always highlighted by, on Monday, the release of the 2020 Open Doors report that will cover the previous academic year from 2019 to 2020. That happens on Mondays, and then campuses have their own programming throughout the week. A lot of that's going virtual this year. But for you as international educators, if you're involved in international student recruitment, I certainly want to invite you to a keynote I'm giving next Tuesday, November 17th at 11 a.m. Eastern for Millersville University in Pennsylvania. I'm dropping the link to the registration form for that. There are 3 different presentations actually going on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. One on the virtual world, talking about transformative study abroad during a pandemic. That's on the EA side. My presentation on fighting the good fight, prepare for the international education challenges of the next 4 years. That's going to be on November 17th at 11 a.m. And then a final one, bringing the world to campus, the impacts of internationalization at home on your college campuses, and talks about ISSS, career services, and other issues that need to be part of overall international student enrollment care at your college campuses. So it's being offered by Millersville, but they've been gracious enough to open up this presentation to anyone that cares to join. So I certainly encourage you to be a part of that. And again, that's next Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, Tuesday, November 17th. So I hope you can join me for that. We will have a recording of that we'll make available on the SMIE website, and we'll talk more about that with future episodes here on the Roundup. So until next time, we wish you a very happy International Education Week next week, and hope that you're recovering well from the election. Until next time, have a great day.